Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Mama Genius Preneur podcast. I'm so excited about our next guest. If this is you, you've done everything they said. You've built the site, you've tried the strategy, you've invested the tools, and yet business still feels hard. Anyone with me? You're barely keeping up, and you're starting to wonder, is there something wrong with me? But what if you're not the problem? What if it's just you just need some better systems and the little truth from someone who's been at it? That's what you'll find in today's episode. Jennifer Gligoric went from homelessness as a teen to a trusted business coach. And now she helps women just like you create real momentum with practical support. You don't need to move more, you need to build better. We'll get started right after this. Mamas, welcome to the Mama Genius Preneur podcast, where real stories spark real transformations for moms ready to bring their vision to life. I'm Michelle DeKaiser, a mom of three, entrepreneur, and your biggest cheerleader if you've ever felt pulled to create something bigger, whether it's a business, a book, or a movement, but also felt the weight of daily life slowing you down. You are not alone. In just 15 minutes, we'll dive into insights, strategies, and real stories for women like you. Let's bring your visions to life, starting now. Jennifer is a certified business coach and ethical entrepreneurship strategist who helps clinic and service businesses owners strengthen their foundation, scale sustainability, and lead with integrity. After experiencing homelessness as a young woman and navigating the challenges of single motherhood, she now mentors women on how to rise through systems, strategies, and self-leadership. She also serves in the cabinet of the Ascardia, the world's first digital nation. Welcome to the stage, Jennifer.
I'm so excited to be talking to moms. I'm a single mom, and I know how hard it is, especially if you're trying to be an entrepreneur on top of everything else. Right now, the way the economy is, a lot of us are like, how do we get out? I think COVID changed a lot of things for us. We built an entire alternate economy just on TikTok, because what was around us wasn't working. All of a sudden you have women making jewelry, women making soap, women just being influencers. I just found that incredible. As women, we are very nimble. We take challenges, we take big struggles, and we're just like, let's make that lemonade out of these lemons. And that's what happened. We can get burnout, right? Because we're givers. And there's ways to not get burnout and ways to be ethical. It is easy to get overwhelmed with how unethical things can be. Just today, there's a major lawsuit, betrayal of trust. Medicare insurers face lawsuit from our own federal government over kickbacks. Major health insurance companies and brokers are now in trouble for using kickbacks in Medicare by not doing what they're supposed to. But there are companies right now that are pushing back against it, making products that people haven't even heard of yet that are absolutely incredible in the healthcare space. And they're using AI. You only need a couple of employees and you have complete transparency. And it pays 175% to the doctors of Medicare and 100% back. Whenever there's a challenge, there's always an incredible solution. When you're focused on that, you can get through a lot.
I believe that so much. I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about your why. I know you talked about being a teen homeless and how you went from that to supporting in the entrepreneurial world. Give us a little bit of that backstory.
Well, yeah, if you met my family now, you'd be like, oh, she grew up with a silver spoon in her mouth. And I did have a great core family, a very large family. We were very close. That is one thing that really helped me. My earliest formative years were good. I was given a good self-esteem. I was given some good self-worth. It all kind of went to crap, though. Around my teen years, where addiction really took hold in my family, financial insecurity, poverty, and then I became homeless living in a shelter. And sometimes I didn't have a shelter. I experienced extreme poverty, and I was going to, the shelter helped me get into University of Miami. I had traveled through different shelters, like backpacking and things, because I'm from Texas. And I ended up there just because they don't experience a bad winter and I couldn't freeze to death. So it was very convenient. Those are things you think about when you're homeless. And they had showers on the beach, so I could shower every single day. Why do a lot of homeless people end up on beaches? Well, there's a reason for that. There's these other things you can use to clean up, and we don't think about. But I do think it's having a good base. My mother was an owner of a staffing agency, which she ran for over 54 years. And I worked at a very young age. I would put the ladies on their, when they would type on an IBM Selectric, I would do their typing test and their timer for them, and I'd set them up. And I would also grade the spelling test. I was really good at spelling and things like that. I also listened to the interviews whenever she would interview them. So I was able to get jobs that I guess other homeless people wouldn't get. They didn't have the skills to know how to act, and really how you act. And it's how you speak. I had a real Texasy accent, which I learned very quickly from, she was a counselor. She was from Haiti. And she said, one of the things really stuck with me, she said, if I put you in a room, how would you know who was wealthy, who was successful? And it was, well, their clothes, their hair, how they're dressed, their jewelry and all these things. Well, what if I took that all away? How would you know? And it was all about their speech and their mannerisms. And that really stuck with me. Even though my clothes were from a loan closet for homeless kids, I managed to get some good jobs and get out of it. I also managed to stay away from human traffickers and didn't end up shooting up heroin or doing horrific things like that, because there was something about me and my personality that made people think, she might have people. She might tell. Tina Fey wrote a great book about this. She goes, it's not the beauty that draws the predator's eye, it's the damage. And I read that later in life, and I thought that's exactly what it is. When you think about these children in schools or these women who pick on these boys or vice versa, it's always the most damaged kids. They're not going for the captain of the football team because they would see that type of crazy a mile away. Kids that don't have a big support around them, that have a lot of damage, where they know they can mentally break them down and show them just a little bit of affection, and they won't know that it's not real. And I had that in my early formative years. I knew the difference. So that really helped me. And then I just put one foot forward in front of the other. And I did hate people for a while, and I had a bad attitude and bad things happened. And then when I stopped that and I thought, I don't want to be this person anymore. I don't want to be so filled with hate and resentment. Like, why me? It was amazing how things changed. And that taught me very young about mindset and always taking chances, and that risk is very important. I've taken a lot of really big risks, and some have been good and some haven't been bad.
Take a break. When we come back, I really want to dive into all the tips and strategies and everything that we can do to really help for those of you in that mind frame of, what do I do now? I have this business. How do I go? We'll be back in just a moment. Are you a mompreneur who feels a fire to create something bigger, a business, a movement, a message, but you don't want to do it alone? That's why I've created the Mama Genius Hub, a space where your vision is nurtured, your voice is heard, and your dreams grow alongside a supportive community. Inside the hub, you'll get bite-sized insights and strategies in 15-minute sessions. A community of like-minded moms who truly get it. Support to bring your vision to life without burnout. If ready to build your business and impact while staying true to yourself, join us today at connectingmamas.com. Your calling matters. Let's grow it together. So now we're really looking at that busy mom who's wanting to start this business, already started this business, but they're just feeling that overwhelmed. And I know you have some ideas of how do we put some of those systems into place?
The first thing you need to do is understand your path of purpose. And this is where ethical entrepreneurship comes into play. So the very first thing you need to do is think about your why. I would have you think about your death and your funeral. Who's there? What impact have you made in their lives? What are they saying about you? How is this going to go in the future? What is your true legacy? Really think about that. And then you need to ask yourself, what am I doing today that marries with that? And I'm going to tell you, some people in their business, it is so far away from what they want their actual legacy to be. That's why they're very, very unhappy, because they pick something to make money, to survive, which we have to do. We have to make money and survive and pay our bills, but then it's different from their path. But there's all these ways we can marry them together. And you need to know where you're going, and you need to write that down. This is the person I want to be. And these are the gifts I think God gave me, or the universe, wherever you're centered. So how am I going to align these gifts with what I'm doing now And do I have to make a big pivot, a small pivot, or is it just little changes? Most people are not too far aligned from it. They just have to pivot a little bit, and then they get into their center of where they really are making steps towards their goal every day.
Example, a small pivot that you've had a client or you yourself have taken to keep people thinking that way.
I work with a lot of healthcare owners. A lot of healthcare owners are still taking insurance. They're very fearful of not taking insurance, but insurance no longer, especially Medicare and Medicaid, they will only reimburse things that put them on a path to drugs, which are high profit, and surgery, which are high profit. That is a reality. It is a fact. I'm not doing it to scare you, but that is the way it is. And they are so afraid that people can't actually pay that they are doing something they know isn't right. It'll help for a little bit. It'll just get them out, but it won't actually fix them. When they move to cash pay and give them the services they need, yes, it's higher for the person, but then they actually get well. It is such a difference because they're spending less than they would on a typical cruise out of Galveston, where I live, for maybe a 5-day cruise for a mom, dad, and a kid. They'll spend less money on that to actually get well with something that they've been dealing with for 10 years. And so once they make the pivot and they understand how to speak to the patients or the people, and they get what they actually want, which is to be well, their whole life changes overnight. They're more dedicated. They're actually getting people well, and they're no longer on that grind, which is a soulless grind right now with major insurer companies. That's just one tiny pivot, and it's a lot easier than people think it is to do. I just wish more people could understand that. That's a big one in healthcare. But in service-based, I had a cabinetry client. They were married. They had to live bi-coastal because there's big issues with kids, and their marriage was failing. By the time we were done, they were the happiest they've been in their marriage. She actually said, "You saved my marriage, Jennifer." And it was just about fear. He was afraid for whatever purpose. She didn't have the access she needed to bookkeeping and to get the real numbers. That was some major limiting beliefs that he had. By the time we finished it, they had the numbers. We finally had the data needed to make the correct changes in that business. And it was a lot easier than he thought. And he really realized, I do have a real partner. And that changed it.
I love that so much because it really is about the fears that stop us from doing some of the, like you said, the small pivots, because we get stuck into those cycles.
Yeah.
I hate that we're running out of time, but
I'll tell you, ask yourself one question, track your numbers, and stop letting fear dictate your decisions. Ask yourself, what would I do if I weren't afraid? The answer to that will be the key to unlocking your next great phase. What would I do if I were not afraid? And then you evaluate that risk.
Tell everyone how they can get a hold of you.
You can find me. If you click on me, then it'll take you to a page and you can get into my free school account, which there's tons of resources for you. There's a free mastermind you can try if you're a clinic owner, or you can have a free one-on-one complimentary call with me. If you're like, what should I do with this? I'm the most incredible brainstormer on the planet. So we'll be able to figure out at least what your next step will be.
And we're going to bring you back in just a moment. We're going to go through some takeaways from our little chat. Takeaways today. Oh my gosh, so many already. Just when we first came on, I was talking about when we look at a challenge, there are so many incredible solutions that come out from it when we take a look at it face on. And number two, I love how she was talking about it's not your clothes or the way you look. It's really about your mannerisms, the way you speak and the way you present yourself. And then you can add on layers to help accentuate that. But it really comes down to that core of how do you want to express that person inside of you? And then number three is really looking at that path of purpose, right? What is at that end, the death, the funeral? How do you want people to remember that legacy? And then looking at, am I actually working towards that and making sure that those align, which then takes us into number four, which is sometimes we need to then make those big pivots or small pivots, depending on, I love how she gave the example of the healthcare aspect because it gives that idea. So go back and listen to that one if you want to really get that in and feel that it's not always having to be that way. And then number five is really looking at those limiting beliefs and fears, because those are what's holding us back. So when we identify it, and I love how she says, ask the question, what would I do if I wasn't afraid? And really focus on that instead and using that to help you make those big and small pivots. Jennifer, we'd love your final takeaway for today.
That would be to ask yourself the question, what would I do if I was not afraid? And then sit with that and not let fear dictate any decision in your life, because that is just a fear. Accept that challenge and you will be able to get through it to your best, brightest life possible.
I think I have to agree with you so much. When we walk through those fears and we take courage with us to the other side, that's what it's all about. And sometimes we need someone to help us through it. So come join us on Mama Genius Hub some more if you'd like to get some support in that. That's a wrap for today's episode, Mama. I hope you found something in these 15 minutes that sparked action towards your dreams. Remember, your purpose matters, your dreams are valid, and you are not alone. If today's conversation spoke to you, come join us at the Mama Genius Hub, where you'll find support, strategy, and sisterhood to turn your calling into real impact. Let's grow this together at connectingmamas.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you'll never miss an episode. If this resonates with you, share it with another mom who needs to hear this. We'll see you next time.